For over a year and a half, Baguio City looked like a ghost town. Businesses were closed. There was no public transportation, and even private cars mostly stayed off the road. The COVID-19 pandemic was reaching its peak. The city was totally locked down in quarantine. No one could enter the city and no one could get out except for rare cases of emergency and the essential traffic of food and other basic commodities. Two of the city's bread and butter industries were shut down: tourism and education. With all hotels and schools closed, there were no tourists and there were no students. This meant that even if you had allowed businesses to stay open, it would not have made any difference. Most of them could not stay open anyway due to the lack of customers. The only part of the economy that remained viable are basic services that no city could do without: utilities, hospitals, and grocery stores, especially the general public market. Many old-time residents describe the situation as being similar to the early years before the war, when both tourism and schools did not yet exist. In those pioneering years, all economic activities were geared to serve the needs of only a small resident population. It was the small size of that early population that set the limit of the capacity of most services, as well as the volume of transactions in every other trade. Over the years, the population has grown exponentially from around 25,000 in 1950 to now almost 379,000, and still growing steadily at 1.6% annually. The typical response of local government to this population upswing has been to adopt a general policy of expanding capacity in everything. As more people migrated to Baguio, more housing was needed. To build more houses, more land had to be cleared. More trees had to be cut. And more water had to be drawn from underground aquifers to feed a growing number of thirsty households. But one thing could not be expanded. The city's land area of just 58 square kilometers can never increase. However, property developers quickly realized that they could still increase the livable area of the city by expanding vertically. That is, by abandoning the bungalow concept of housing and building more high-rise structures instead. The rate of condominium development in Baguio City today is astounding. Impressive, as it is alarming. Today, Baguio City is finally coming out of quarantine and trying to return to normal. But some people suggest that the period of lockdown that the city went through taught some very important lessons. Apparently, Baguio City can survive with limited tourism and a less hectic economy. There was just no way to see that until the pandemic forced the city to slow down, to downsize, and to return to the basics of small community management. might even be wise to take a second look at transient migration as well. Of course, this means losing considerable amount of business income in the short term. But the trade-off for this is less traffic, less congestion, less garbage, better utility service coverage, and even a lower crime rate. In short, staying small may be the key to restoring the city to the pristine environment that made it attractive to tourists in the first place. Baguio's quarantine experience demonstrated that the quality of life in the city can also be enhanced by reducing instead of expanding carrying capacity. Development is not always about unlimited growth. It is also about recognizing limits and the political will to stay within those limits. But it seems that as things return to normal, old ways of thinking are also coming back. Local government is talking about development again in the one-dimensional sense. Build, build, and build. The public market, which managed to keep the city well-fed throughout the pandemic despite the reduced inflow of supplies, is now the object of expansion and modernization. The concept is impressive, no doubt about it. Inevitably, it will resemble the highly efficient modern markets you see in many big cities around the world. The city itself will upgrade to world-class amenities. There will be increased economic activity, increased employment, increased opportunities overall, all of which will incentivize further migration and consumption. In no time, the city will need to expand its capacity again to serve the growing population, and the cycle begins all over. Somehow you would hope that the lessons of the pandemic would not be quickly forgotten. That no matter how advanced the level of modernization any city could achieve, all it takes is a microscopic virus to remind us that survival is a capacity you cannot expand. Sometimes a return to the basic efficiency of small community is better than the unlimited potential for disaster faced by an overblown and overdeveloped urban jungle.